Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Although I must say, willkommen zurück, denn für
Welcome back, because for this part we decided to switch to German. And I should say, after the last talk we had about Bangladesh, it's nice in such a live format. There were so tough statements on SDGs and that there is need for action. And we are going to discuss about that, not what happens in Bangladesh, but now we talk about Frankfurt. Frankfurt is an international city and is growing permanently, and sustainability goal also play a role. I have the city councillor for environmental affairs, Rosemarie, Heilig, here, and the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Melanie Nolte, here. But we wanted to start with Professor Dr. Klärle, Vice President of the University of Applied Science in Frankfurt, about the role to promote sustainability. We have a video of that talk before. Do we have the video, dear technical support, now? Yes? No? I have not received an answer. There it is. Also from my side, a very nice good afternoon to the Frankfurt SDG Summit. Thank you very much for having invited me. Thank you very much for your congratulations to our 50th anniversary. Here you can see on my desk the 50 years of our University of Applied Sciences. A proud age, but we cannot only be proud of our age, but also of what we have achieved. We have 16,000 students, one of the largest universities of applied sciences in Germany, and we do a lot in research in regional and international areas. We are networked really well, and we are driving motor for sustainable development. We have been that, and in the past few years, we have even become better in that. For 50 years, we have lived with the slogan, chances for opportunities, chances for education, and by education. So there are a lot of reasons to celebrate that anniversary. Now your question, how we came to the sustainability goals and what our opinion is on the 17 sustainability goals is, the answer is easy. Climate protection and regeneration of the environment are the challenges of present times, and we face that as Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences, and we have not stopped even during Corona time to follow that up. It was a bit more difficult, but we are more grateful than ever that we have managed to continue our sustainability strategy, to adopt it, and not to lose sight of it. And we acknowledge this urgency and emergency that is proclaimed for climate emergency, and we have proclaimed that as University of Applied Sciences as well. We are a university that has adopted a sustainability strategy, and we derive concrete measures for that, for studying, for teaching, for further training and education, research and transfer. And one tangible goal, at the latest by 2030, making sure that the entire university standard is CO2 neutral. And another important step is that we, as Frankfurt UAS, only cooperate with companies, authorities, institutions that also have obliged for sustainability. That's for construction. We have a lot of construction activities and projects. For the products we buy food, we buy dresses, and a lot more. Also, we, as individual members of the university and as university in total, in particular. So the ordering is decided by the principle of sustainability. And the Frankfurt UAS is a lab, a model project on our campus, the buildings, the campus as such, the green parks, and the planning and our mobility. And the certification of the Fair Trade University is upcoming very soon. That's the next important step in September this year. And we have created the Office for Sustainability now, because it's not helpful to only set yourself goals, but really they need to be implemented. For that, you need high qualified and trained people to do so. We have that, and we'll continue to build it up in our Office for Sustainability. And this sustainability concept, and with that, I would like to leave it for the first question, was developed by everyone in the university, but I should say the students. They were the ones that drove it. They wanted it. They exerted the pressure, and they didn't rest and didn't allow us to rest. It was fantastic how they contributed. And I recommend to all other universities not only involve the students in the process, but use the students to take front. So 50 years, UIS, sustainability and innovation.
And we also would like to know about the role of education when it comes to sustainability and the Agenda 2030. Well, there are several levers we have. One is, of course, to be a role model yourself, so carbon neutral university. Also, our research results are a great lever, but a bigger lever even are our students, our graduates, because the students will later on have the possibility, wherever they land or end up in whichever career, in social work, in the financial world, or in the construction industry or engineering sectors, to really make sustainability work and to implement the measures which they learn about here. Our philosophy is precisely to develop know-how together with the students and all become ambassadors. So a university should be a role model, and actually we are. And we are a kind of lighthouse amongst the universities on the back of our sustainability strategy, and we're taking our responsibilities seriously in research and education, and of course the study courses for our graduates. The key to climate protection is in the hands of our graduates, the ones who receive the knowledge here and can perpetuate it out in the field. Many of the graduates then will also the students go out to take the streets for Fridays for Future. I've been there too, and it's very important, very valuable for you to speak up. And we're also glad about any student who speaks up at the Fridays for Future demonstrations and also carry on the knowledge they hear from us. And my last question would be what the concrete measures are of the Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences as part of your sustainability strategy. Of course, we have a large number of concrete measures, and some of them we've already completed. For example, in every course and every module, the university wants to put sustainability as the basis and also teach accordingly, and not just the technical knowledge, but also the general knowledge of really balancing the different interests, because there are interests because the environment and other aspects of sustainability. And the second pillar is research. Sustainability in research is very important. A small research project could save the world. That's why it's important to support anything which goes in the direction of sustainability in research. And the third aspect is further training. Further education. The generations of the 40, 50, 60-year-olds have not heard anything about sustainability in their studies, and that's why further education is important for those people who have completed their training and their education, so that they should also be able to acquire this knowledge about sustainability using further education formats. And we support institutions, local authorities, companies on their road towards more sustainability. Of course, the university as an institution, we want to be sustainable as buildings in terms of our behavior. We have switched to renewable energies. We've completed that. We also have completed the connection to district heating. We have biodiversity projects. Recently, a beehive was set up at the campus, and 3 populations have been established there. We have a partner university in Vietnam who want to plant a Frankfurt forest in Vietnam because there are things we have to compensate because we can't go down to zero. So that's a number of measures. We want to invite the citizens of Frankfurt. We want to make sustainability visible on the campus and to be a kind of pilot for the rest of the society, civil society in Frankfurt. I've mentioned cooperation with companies, but that's something which is difficult, not easy, not always easy to implement. And of course, we want to institutionalize sustainability. We have created an office for sustainability, which also makes visible, make people aware of what we're doing here. It's not something we're doing as in order to please ourselves. We want to really widen the minds of the society, and that's why we want to make these sustainability projects visible, put them center stage, and also make knowledge about sustainability available to everyone. That's really crucial. Well, thank you very much again, by the way, for the invite, and hopefully you will have many constructive ideas and exchange of views, and you're always invited to visit the University of Applied Sciences in Frankfurt. Thank you very much, Professor Klärle, for this insight into your strategy. And I'd like to welcome Rosemarie Heilig. She's a city councillor of Frankfurt, and also the member of the Commercial Chamber of Commerce in Frankfurt. So what are the effects of the pandemic on sustainability? Ms. Heilig, well, the pandemic has shown us what is possible. We are in the midst of the climate crisis. We need to take note of that. We had a very hot summers. Last 3 summers have been very hot. Our the forest of Frankfurt is dying as we speak, and we need to be aware of that. Once you look at COVID-19, what was possible in terms of making quick changes, I would like to wish to see the same thing for sustainability. So if you ask me what the effects are, I could tell you lots about that, but we want to talk about sustainability today. And what is possible is really impressive if everyone understands we're in the midst of a crisis. The kind of energy which you create, and the way you can just flick a switch. You don't have to fly away. You can work from home. You can do lots of stuff working from home, and this will reduce CO2 emissions drastically. This shows that it is possible to make the world able or fit for grandchildren. I prefer the word fitness for grandchildren to sustainability. I think the fitness for grandchildren is something which rings a bell with many people. But this also raises the sense of responsibility. But let's take a look at the future. Let's assume that the pandemic will come to its end. But how, as Frankfurt, can you make sure that sustainability becomes a priority subject? Because once the pandemic is over, there are so many other things you have to settle and sort out. Well, what is the approach of Frankfurt? Well, we have just set up a new coalition government, and we have lots of plans in this direction, saving lots of CO2. That is the prime objective on the agenda. Top number 1 on the agenda, how do we administer ourselves? All the departments have to implement climate climate budget, we also have to own up ourselves. We have to cut out the number of cars from Frankfurt. We don't want to have a city of cars, but a city with fewer cars. That's another clear goal. And we need to adapt our climate policy. Look at the fairgrounds, look at the facades and the roofs, which you could green up. The fair is doing a few things there, but I've seen other things. For example, there's no plastic cutlery around anymore. And so that's something very important. So people can do things, and we have to get away from this city made for cars. Just get rid of the cars from downtown. Well, Ms. Nolte, how can the public sector support the private sector, because you're speaking for the private sector, being from the Chamber of Commerce? Well, we as a Chamber of Commerce have subscribed to this idea. Through the law on commercial, the Chambers of Commerce, we have to subscribe to the maintaining the honor of the honorable merchant. That's in our statutes. So sustainability is something which is writ large, which is really very important from the beginning of our Chamber of Commerce. Sustainability has been a topic for a long time, and companies actually are eager to do something. They want to introduce sustainability into their fold because they are part of the solution. Companies are the ones which emit a lot of CO2 at the moment, of course. This means that a lot of is being done there, and politicians is making it difficult for us in many respects. Many cuts and curbs and curtailments, penalties, increased taxes, and so on. So they are not making the job easier for companies. But I would wish to have something else. Would wish to have a positive approach, more incentives, more rewards, if people invest in sustainability, because that's what pays off. And companies have understood this, because companies are doing long-term planning, not short-term planning. And you can only be successful long-term if you are sustainable or become sustainable. And if politicians could support us, government could support us through positive incentives, that would really help us an awful lot. Would you like to come in there? Do you agree? Well, I couldn't really interpret your glance just now. You accepting what was just said or objections? Well, the debate, well, to me, there is no contradiction. I think the ecology and the economy should belong together. They shouldn't be contradictory. But in the last few decades, we have really banged a lot on voluntary measures by the companies, that companies would do something in favor of fitness for grandchildren. But this experience wasn't very positive. Let's take a look at the car industry, which is completely overslept e-mobility. Germans find it very hard, very late in the game of electric mobility. The Asians are much quicker there, and the Germans are now catching up slowly. But if we didn't put on the pressure on companies, I think we would not achieve anything. It's a climate crisis. We have to save CO2. What does the Chamber of Commerce do with its companies to achieve this? What does an incentive mean to you? If I'm a politician and you tell me I should create an incentive, what could this incentive be? Well, when it comes to electric mobility, I think you took the right action. Subsidization of electric mobility. It's a good example. I think that's an example which is in the right direction, I believe. I think it's good to have the two of you together here, because there seems to be a more need for a debate, a discussion, which is normal. But I wanted to ask you originally whether there are strategic partnership which you like to establish within the city of Frankfurt. Of course there are. We heard about Bangladesh just now, and the question, what kind of clothes are we wearing? Is it necessary for us to wear clothing which is cheaply made in cheap countries? cheap labor countries, sweatshop countries where high prices are charged here in Germany. So the top of the agenda is fair trade. It's on purpose that I put on these clothes. These are clothes which were produced here in Frankfurt, the same with me. I'm wearing a Frankfurt t-shirt even though I'm coming from Berlin. So we should be more aware of what we are consuming, also in terms of food, but also in terms of the clothes we're buying, where they're produced, and that those people producing it get a fair price for their products and are not going to produce on the cheap, have to produce on the cheap, transporting this to us, which also causes a lot of CO2 emissions. And then it's either sold with H&M at H&M's at totally cheap prices, or other companies where it's much more expensive. The consumers need to be aware of this themselves. Just dumping this on politicians, for us to make sure there is a law on it, I think that's wrong. In terms of climate protection, we have to think about our own behavior. So what does Frankfurt do is another question I would like to ask. It seems to be that the Chamber of Commerce is very open-minded there, and the government also seems to be open-minded. That's what I'd like to return to Ms. Nolte. Where can Frankfurt companies get the information to become more sustainable? Well, we always like to be the first port of call when it comes to these questions, because we have a competence center for sustainability in the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has been active in this field since 2014. 60 companies have joined forces and created a working group, which has turned into a committee in 2019. So that is a established institution within the Chamber of Commerce. And so it is possible to just pick up the phone and call us, because we have a huge pool of companies, full-time Chamber of Commerce employees who are very familiar with this subject, and we find it easy to connect you. We have 111,000 companies in the Chamber of Commerce networks, and this, of course, they represent lots of experience, and of course, we'll be all too willing to pass on the contacts to the right people, etc. Let's see, before I come to my personal questions, I will ask whether there are questions from the audience already.
Not yet, so I have time to talk about my questions. Well, I've been here a few hours and I listened in intensively also what the role fashion can take in order to set new impulses, and this is also to influence people. I mean, not only private sector and things like that brought together. How can we all go in the same direction, sit in the same boat and take action together? Did the private side think about it, how to embark upon different ways to create that awareness? One argument is, okay, we adjust to the market, but now the point is, what is the market? Who has influenced whom in order to be more sustainable? What we do, for example, the economic department and the women's department, well, designers, female designers that produce fashion in Frankfurt are brought together, and we give them the opportunity to see how can I find a right shop, where can I do my tailor business, and here we bring together young and experienced women so that they can really be shown in classical shops. And then also, when we talk about fashion, it's really important to mention one aspect as a women representative here. Models, and that's a shame, are always the ideal shape. I mean, that has changed. Diversity is there. So first steps have been taken. I mean, body shaming is one point. We are having a campaign at the moment from the women's department. We think it's a shame that young girls have this ideal image of how a woman should look like, and men as well. They are also drawn into that debate. What's the result? Often you have eating disorders and body shaming. Instead of feeling well with your own body, saying, I just accept myself and my body, I love my body, there's always this striving for this ideal appearance, and that's from yesterday. And I would wish that the fashion industry would do more in this direction, not only thinking of the ideal type. We are all diverse, we all look different, and it would be great to respect that. You look like you look, you look like you look, and that's great and diverse, and that's attractive about the human being. I've got this T-shirt, a number larger, I come to the private side. It says Frankfurt on the Main. Yeah, and I have close links to Hesse. Question to the panel, to Mrs. Heilig and Mrs. Nolte, the two panelists. Starting from Professor Klärle's impulse talk, it's the students that drive the Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences, sustainability projects, innovations, new fields of research. Who are other important drivers in Frankfurt City and its municipalities? First of all, it's we, maybe you, Mrs. Nolte. First of all, we all do that. All of us who live here, who work here, who have learned to get through the pandemic. We have learned that walking is absolutely popular. Driving your bike is popular. We have very good bicycle path, and we have made great progress in that respect, and working from home has become possible. And now we need not drive to Frankfurt every day. 350,000 cars drive into Frankfurt every day, and we should learn from that. CO2, individual traffic should stay out, rather work from home for 2 days, and also with a good life-work balance, which is extremely important for women in particular. It affects all of us. I wouldn't delegate it to anyone. Yeah, I absolutely agree to that. It's all of us. Every individual one can do something, as you've just described it. I can only support that, whether it's home office, whether it's going by bike or walking, or using the tram, the underground, and in fashion, maybe rather have second-hand fashion, like my suit is second-hand, and not always buying something new again and again. I have come here by train. That's really practical. The hotel is around the corner, and with my e-scooter, I came easy here. That's good in Frankfurt. We have short distances. We get really quickly from A to B, walk by bike, underground. It's not 1 hour that you have to travel through the city. Maximum 20 minutes from one final stop to the next final stop. I'm happy that the EHK is not against us making the inner city traffic-free. Okay, there is a question to Mrs. Heilig. Small print. Should wear my glasses. The main goal of the sustainability agenda, individual traffic should be reduced. That a European Eurobike Bike City Automotive Trade Fair. It's about the automotive trade fair that was hosted here for a long time, and now the bike trade fair comes here, and we are so happy. That's a great trend. So we have set a sign, and there have been a lot of protests for Messe Frankfurt's disaster that the International Motor Show goes to Munich, but I've heard that in Munich also a lot of OEMs have decided not to go there. Bikes, I mean, that's a big market also. E-bikes, I mean, highly growing market. The question to Mrs. Nolte, what incentive do you have for sustainable companies? If you don't ask, you stay stupid. And what do you do for those who are still lagging behind in terms of sustainability? What we do, we offer a lot of information and advice. Sustainability in our presidium, in our board, has always been there. I think no other subject has been dealt with so intensively as sustainability. And in my past 2 years in office, I really have to confirm that. So it's top of the agenda. We also have our internal strategy that we are developing. We have an internal working group to turn the Chamber of Commerce and Industry into a sustainable organization representing the private sector. We ourselves need to be sustainable in order to be able to give advice to others. We have to be a role model. That's what we think in general terms. And for those who are still lagging behind, we try to offer a lot of information events. Also in the general meeting, we try to talk about it. Here we have about 80 companies of the region that have been elected into our general meeting, and we have a fantastic event in November on the honorable merchant and sustainability. We have great guests that we have invited with great entrepreneurial examples. These are our actions that we organize in order to tell interesting stories, have attractive formats, and show to people how you can change your company in direction of sustainability fully. Just to come back to cultural activities, people talk about transparency a lot, that people see what you're doing, but then it might fail because you don't know what is happening there. So with culture, you can be transparent. I mean, there is always a fight, state against private people against the state, etc. So maybe it's a good idea to come together on cultural projects. For private industry, it could be advantageous as well. If people knew how the private industry is organized. So many people said, you don't do it, you shouldn't do that, and someone didn't know, and then they did it. So maybe as an exchange, you could really do more. People with new ideas and impulses can change. Everything that we knew before didn't work out that well, and sometimes you don't see the tree because of the forest, and the vice versa. Well, we are an event venue. We have a lot of events in our chamber, and we are in permanent exchange with politics. We are always open for joint meetings, developing new impulses, exchange and network. We are the place, unless you are in pandemic times, to have exchange and network. All right, at that point, I can only say thank you for having taken the time to talk to us and the audience, and on our way to reach the SDGs till 2030. I think the city of Frankfurt, beyond doubt, is an important driver. We have learned that today. And now we switch back to English. It becomes international again.
Next share with you the discussion on the role of fashion in relation to our climate. Jetzt bleiben wir auf Deutsch. Nicht, dass ich die Leute jetzt hier verärgere oder so. Okay, so I'll be back in English. I'll finish it in German, and then it's going to be fine. Also jetzt für alle anderen nochmal.
Once again, for all the others, thank you very much for this discussion, for everyone. We'll be back in a second, and then we talk at our next panel about the goals and climate. And it will be a clip that is completely in English. Carrie Bennigan, founder of the Conscious Fashion campaign, will moderate it. And thank you very much for that. And we'll have an exchange and maybe look for a substitute for apple wine.